Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorgeline Alvestri, and I am the first reporter of Reporter 11. And our topic um, is all about contemporary approaches and digital criticism. So, what is contemporary approaches and digital criticism? It refers to the evolving methods and strategies for analyzing and critiquing media and literature in the digital era. So, these approaches challenge traditional literary criticism and emphasize close reading, semiotic textuality, and the impact of digital methods on literary studies. So it described the shifts happening in literary criticism as we move into digital age. It's essentially saying that the way we analyze and critique media and literature is changing because of the internet and digital technologies. So the field of criticism is still evolving, but it is already having a significant impact on the way we think about and study literature and media in the digital age. Have you ever noticed how a song, movie, or book can make you feel like you understand a certain time period or social group? Okay, it is amazing how can art transport us to different times and places. A song from 60s can make you feel the energy of civil rights movement. A movie set in the Victorian era can give you the glimpse into social norms. And a book from the 1920s can make you feel or can make you understand the anxiety and aspiration of time. So art has a powerful way of immersing us in different worlds and helping us connect with experience beyond our own. What do you think is more important, the text itself or the historical context in which it was created? So, while the text itself is the tangible artifact we engage with, it's the historical context that breathes life into it. Without understanding the social, political, and cultural landscape in which work was created, we risk missing the nuisance, the author intentions, and the deeper layers of meaning embedded within. The text provided the words, the image, the music, and the historical context provides the lens through which we truly understand its significance. So, deconstructing culture and history, cultural studies and new historicism. Cultural studies and new historicism are two influential approaches that explore the intricate relationship between culture and history. They challenge traditional ways of understanding these concepts by emphasizing the interconnectedness of various social, political, and economic forces that shape our world. So, cultural studies and new historicism are influential approaches that challenge traditional understanding of culture and history by emphasizing the interconnectedness of social and political economic forces shaping our world. Now let's proceed to cultural studies. Cultural studies, also known as cultural sciences, is an interdisciplinary field that delves into complexities of contemporary culture, its historical roots, and its connection to power structure. Examine how culture, practice, including popular culture and politics, are intertwined with systems of power like ideology, class, gender, and racist sexuality. So that was cultural studies is like. It's about taking closer look at all the things that make up our culture and figuring out how they fit together. It examined contemporary culture from popular music to political movements and traces their roots back through history. It is not just about what we see and hear, but also understanding the power structure that shaped those things. Think of it as a lens that helps us see how money, class, gender, race, and ideology influence the culture we experience every day. So, origins and evolution. Cultural studies emerged in Britain in 1950s and 1960s, influenced the work of scholars like Richard Hogarth, Stuart Hall, and Raymond Williams. The Century of Contemporary Cultural Studies at the University of Birmingham played a pivotal role in establishing the field as a distinct area of studies. So here are the key features of cultural studies. The interdisciplinary focus on power, culture as a site of struggle, emphasis on everyday life. First, we have interdisciplinary. Cultural studies is interdisciplinary because it draws from a variety of academic fields, including sociology, anthropology, history, economic, philosophy, and literature. It's a field that studies how meaning is created in social structure and how culture plays a role in the distribution of power. So cultural study is multidisciplinary fields that uses various disciplines like sociology, anthropology, and literature to understand how meaning is created in societies. It explores how culture, including music, movies, fashion, and foods, interacts with power, class, and social structures, creating a puzzle that helps us understand the larger picture of our world. So now let's proceed to focus on power. Cultural studies scholars are particularly interested in how power dynamics influence the creation, dissemination, and interpretation of culture. They analyze how dominant groups maintain control through cultural practice and how marginalized groups resist and challenge these structures. So, cultural studies explores the intricate link between power and culture, examining how those in power utilize media and fashion to maintain control. It also investigates how marginalized groups challenge these structures through their own cultural extension, fostering a dynamic interplay of influence and resistance. So, culture as a site of struggle. Cultural studies views culture not as fixed entity but as a dynamic and protested space where meaning is constantly negotiated and redefined. So, cultural studies sees culture as a living, breathing thing, not only something set in stone. It's a space where people are constantly interacting, arguing, and changing the way they understand things. It's not about finding one definitive answer, but rather about recognizing that meaning is always being created and recreated through this ongoing conversation and struggles. So, lastly, we have emphasis on everyday life. Cultural studies investigates how people construct their everyday lives within a specific social context. This includes examining cultural practice, rituals, and symbols that shape individuals and collective identities. So it aims to understand how these elements help people navigate their rules in society and shape their identities. So, new historicism. a form of literary theory that emerged in the 1980s, emphasizes the interconnectedness of literature in its historical context. It rejects the traditional separation between high literature and low culture, arguing that all cultural production, including popular culture, offers valuable insights into social and political dynamics of particular period. By analyzing literature within its historical framework, New Historicism aims to uncover how culture production reflect and influence the values and power of culture of a specific era. So, influence and legacy. New historicism has had a significant impact on literary studies, prompting a renewed focus on historical and cultural context of literary works. It has also influenced other fields such as history, cultural studies, and critical theory. So the new historicism emphasizes the importance of understanding of literary work within a specific historical and cultural context. This includes examining the social, political, and economic condition that shapes the author's perspective and the audience reception of the work. So it emphasizes the importance of analyzing literary works within the specific historical and cultural context. So it examines the social, political, and economic factors that shapes the author's perspective and the audience reception. This approach provides deeper insights into the meaning of literature, arguing that it cannot be fully understood without considering its broader context. New historicists believe that literature not only reflects history but also shapes it. Analyze how literary works engage with influence and the dominant ideologies and the power structures of their time. So it views literature as a both reflection of and a powerful influence in the history. So the new historicists believe that literature challenge or reinforce this structure, shaping the social, political, and cultural landscape. Their goal is to understand the complex relationship between literary expression and social change through historical context. So, how are cultural studies and new historicism are interrelated? New historicism and cultural studies are both theories and critical approaches that emerged in the late 20th century and are related in several ways. First, focus. Both new historicism and cultural studies focus on relationship between literature and its historical and cultural context. Influence. Both new historicism and cultural studies are influenced by work of French philosopher Michel Foucault. Third one, goal. These seek to reveal the complex interplay of power, ideology, and discourse. So, approach. Both new historicism and cultural studies look for cultural construct instead of objective truth. Popularity. New historicism first gained popularity among Renaissance scholars, and its influence led to increasing popularity of culturally and historically minded studies, which is known as cultural studies. New historicism emphasizes that literary works are embedded in socio-political and cultural condition of the time in which they were written. Cultural studies emphasizes that individual experience is culturally specific rather than universal. So the new historicism and cultural studies both emphasizes the connection between individual experience and its context. New historicism focused on how literary works are influenced by socio-political and cultural conditions of their time. In contrast, cultural studies highlights that individual experience are culturally specific rather than universal. Next is the reader response criticism. Reader response criticism is a literary theory that emphasizes the reader's experience rather than the text itself, arguing that meaning is created through the interaction between the reader and the text. So, reader response criticism prioritizes the reader's experience over the text itself, asserting that meaning arises from the interaction between the reader and the text. It recognizes that each reader's unique background and perspective shape their interpretation. So, this approach highlights the active role of a reader in creating meaning, constructing with the idea of the text as a static object with a fixed meaning. So, the origin and the history. Reader response criticism gained prominence in the 1960s and 1970s, challenging new criticism which focused solely on the text structure and meaning while ignoring the reader's influence. Here are the four key concepts include. First one, active reader. Readers are seen as active participants in meaning making rather than passive recipients. So here in active reader theory views readers as active participants in meaning making rather than passive recipients. So it emphasizes that readers bring their own experience and perspective to the reading process, shaping the meaning of the text. So text as performance. Each readers bring their own experience and values to create unique interpretation. So the text as performance, ideas in reader response criticism emphasizes that each reader brings their own experience and values to the text, creating unique interpretation. So this makes each reading performance shaping the meaning of the text through reader's individual lens. So, the implied reader. This is a hypothetical construct representing the audience the author envisioned. So, it is a theoretical concept representing the ideal reader the author envisioned while writing. It's a real person but construct representing the audience the author hopes to engage and influence with their work. The last one we have interpretive communities, introduced by Stanley Fish. This concept refers to groups of readers who share similar interpretive strategies and assumptions. So, interpretive communities, as defined by Stanley Fish, are groups of readers who are similar interpretive strategies and assumptions, leading them to understand and interpret texts in similar ways. So, the first series we have Louise Rosenbat. She focused on transactional nature of reading. Reading is an individual act. Meaning is constructed when the readers adopt a stance along this aesthetic efferent continuum and then synthesize organize information based on his or her interaction with the text. Interaction and dialogue between children and adults is a vital ingredient of transactional pedagogy. When thinking about children reading in terms of transactional reading theory. So this theory stresses the importance of interaction and dialogue, especially in children reading is a crucial element in fostering comprehension and engagement. Okay, next we have Stanley Fish. A college professor conducted an experiment with his class, highlighted interpretive communities. He conducted the text rely entirely on the reader's lens of perspective. He suggested that we determine a text meaning in interpretive communities. Example, text will have whatever meaning we assign them based on whatever lens we are using while reading. Culture, expectation, and even time of day can affect this lens. So this perspective emphasizes the subject nature of interpretation, where cultural background, personal expectation, and even the time of day can influence how a reader understands a text. So the third theorist we have Wolfgang Iser developed the concept of implied reader and the gaps in text that readers feel. The implied reader refers to the specific audience an author has in mind when crafting their works, and the gaps are areas where readers actively participates in creating meaning. He proposed that the author have a specific audience in mind when writing the implied reader. The text often contains gaps or areas where readers must actively participate to construct meaning. So these gaps invite readers to engage with the text to create their own interpretation, leading to dynamic and personalized reading experience. So the last series we have Norman Holland. A psychoanalytic critic emphasized the role of a reader's unconscious mind and psychoanalytical experience in shaping the reading process. So he believed that readers project their identity themes onto the text, influencing their interpretation. He emphasizes here the role of reader unconscious mind and personal experience in shaping their interpretation of text. Hulan believed that readers project their own identity, themes, or core psychological patterns onto the text, influencing their understanding and creating a unique personalized reading process. Application and implication. This approach provides a framework for literary analysis, influence teaching, and methods by focusing on students' interpretation and aids in understanding how culture shapes reading experience. So, reader response criticism emphasizes the reader's active role in constructing meaning, providing a framework for literary analysis and influencing teaching methods and encourage students' mm, interpretation. So it also sheds the light on how cultural background shape reading experience, highlighting the dynamic relationship between literature and culture. So next we have the reader response criticism has significantly impacted literary studies by highlighting the role of the reader creating meaning, while also raising important discussion about the balance between reader experience and textual analysis. So, reader response criticism has profoundly influenced literary studies by emphasizing the reader's role in meaning making. It has sparked essential discussion about finding a balance between personal reader experience and traditional textual analysis, enriching our understanding of literature.
Hi everyone, I am Hani Jane Ramirez and today we are going to discuss about digital humanities, textual analysis, and intersectionality in literary criticism as part of the larger framework of contemporary approaches and digital criticism. We all know that literature is not static, it evolves with time, technology, and culture. So let's explore how these concepts shape the way we study literature today. First off, what are digital humanities? This is an interdisciplinary field that combines technology and the humanities to study culture, history, and literature in innovative ways. So this means that instead of just reading and interpreting text, scholars in digital humanities use digital tools and computational methods to analyze large bodies of work. There are methods in how to do this. First, we have text mining. Text mining allows us to identify recurring themes, words, or patterns across hundreds or even thousands of texts. From the word itself, mining, it extracts and analyzes useful information from large amounts of text using computers. Let's see how text mining occurs from the example in the next slide. So for example, let's say we want to use text mining to analyze Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet by focusing on the dialogue of different characters to understand who speaks the most and how the characters interact with each other. To use text mining, first we have data collection. We have to gather first the text of Romeo and Juliet. Next, we have word frequency analysis. By using a text mining tool to count the most frequently used words in the entire play, we could identify key themes like love, death, and family, which are central to the play. Next, we have character dialogue analysis. This allows us to see how many lines each character speaks, revealing interesting patterns like how Romeo and Juliet dominate the dialogue, while Tybalt focuses on honor and conflict, and Mercutio on humor. Text mining helps reveal hidden patterns in the text that might not be immediately obvious through a traditional reading. Text mining in this example involves using software to count word frequencies and analyze character dialogue to uncover patterns and themes like how often words like love and death appear on which character speaks the most. The next method is data visualization. This method turns complex textual data into visuals like graphs, charts, or networks. So from the word itself, visualization is turning data into visual formats like charts, graphs, or diagrams to make data easier to understand and analyze. For example, imagine you are studying how frequently different themes like love, power, and betrayal appear in Shakespeare's plays. Assuming you already have gathered all the data, love is mentioned 40 times in Romeo and Juliet and 10 times in Hamlet. Power is mentioned 15 times in Macbeth and 20 times in Julius Caesar. Betrayal is mentioned 25 times in Othello and 18 times in Julius Caesar. The goal is to use data visualization to show the occurrence of themes across plays. Let's say you have chosen bar graph for data visualization. From the data you have gathered, bar graph can show that love dominates in Romeo and Juliet while betrayal is prominent in Julius Caesar. This helped us quickly see which themes are central to different works that would guide our deeper analysis. Next method is distant reading. This approach focuses on analyzing trends across many texts instead of closely reading a few. Let's say you want to explore how the theme of love evolves in English novels over the past 300 years, from the 700s to the 2000s. So the goal is to study the theme of love in many novels without reading each one in detail. The steps are: first, data collection. We have to gather first hundreds of novels published over 300 years. Second is word frequency analysis of distant reading. Use a program to find how often the word love appears in these novels across the years. You also look for the related terms like heart, romance, and affection. Lastly is the results of distant reading. You find that in the 700s, love appears less frequently, often in tragic or formal contexts. In the 1800s, love appears more often in romantic contexts. By the 1900s, love appears even more often, and it is sometimes connected with themes of freedom or personal identity. Instead of reading each novel closely, distant reading allows us to see long-term trends, such as how the portrayal of love changes over centuries in different cultural contexts. Next is textual analysis in literary criticism, traditional versus digital. So, what does it mean? What is textual analysis? Textual analysis involves closely examining a piece of text to uncover its deeper meanings, themes, and how the author uses language. This can involve looking at things like word choice, tone, symbols, character developments, structures, and patterns to interpret the deeper meaning of a literary work. For example, let's analyze a famous passage from Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Passage: "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Act 2, Scene 2. The goal is to understand how Juliet uses this metaphor to express her feelings about Romeo's name. These are the steps of textual analysis. First is identifying the key theme. The passage reflects the theme of identity and the power of names, which is central to the play, especially in how Romeo and Juliet's love is affected by their family names. Second is word choice analysis. Rose is often seen as a symbol of beauty and love, while name represents societal labels and family loyalty. The phrase, "by any other name," suggests that names are arbitrary and don't define who people truly are. Third is symbolism. The rose symbolizes Juliet's love for Romeo, which is pure and unaffected by the feud between their families. The phrase, smile as sweet, shows that love and identity should transcend family names, highlighting the conflict between individual desires and societal expectations. Fourth is tone and analysis. Juliet speaks with tone of reason and romantic idealism, suggesting that love should not be confined by arbitrary labels like Montague or Capulet. Textual analysis reveals that this line is about the power of love over social conventions. Juliet is essentially saying that Romeo's family name does not define who he is or the love they share. Next is intersectionality in literary criticism. What is intersectionality? Intersectionality is a concept that looks at how different aspects of a person's identity, such as race, gender, class, sexuality, and other social categories, overlap and affect their experiences in society. These concepts help us understand how multiple forms of discrimination or privilege can influence someone's life. For example, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. In Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare presents the tragic love story of two young lovers from feuding families. The characters' experiences can be analyzed through the lens of intersectionality, especially considering their gender, social class, and family identity. Intersectionality in Romeo and Juliet highlights how Romeo and Juliet's love story is influenced by the interplay of their gender, family background, and social class. It shows that their tragic fate is not simply due to individual choices, but a complex web of societal pressures and the identities that shape their lives and decisions. Intersectionality helps readers understand that their tragedy is not just about personal love, but also about the broader social systems that govern behavior, honor, and family relationships. Literature is a reflection of humanity, and technology helps us see its fullest depth. Throughout our discussion, we used technology to analyze the different aspects of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, helping us better understand its characters, themes, and social issues. In conclusion, the integration of digital humanities, textual analysis, and intersectionality within the contemporary approaches and digital criticism has revolutionized the study of literature. We are no longer limited to traditional prose reading. We can use technology and diverse frameworks to find more meaning in literature and keep them relevant and inclusive in today's world. I hope this presentation inspires you to think about literature and technology in a whole new way. Thank you for watching!